stowage factors and densities. We all know general cargo is a term which covers a great variety of goods. Those goods may be in bags, cases, crates, drums or barrels, or they may be kept together in bales. In this lesson, we will study preparation of cargo spaces, stowage plan, preload plans and density. After going through this presentation, you should be able to explain the preparation of cargo spaces, discuss the stowage plan, explain the preload plans or load plan for commodity cargo, discuss the preload plans or load plan for various product forms, and explain the loading, stowage and identification of cargo parcels and density. The preparation of the general cargo parcels with additional specific items being carried out for specialized cargoes. Holds and tween deck spaces should be thoroughly swept down to remove all traces of the previous cargo. The amount of cleaning will depend on the type of previous cargo and the nature of the next cargo to be carried. On occasions, the hold will need to be washed using salt water wash in order to remove heavy dust or glutinous residues, but the hold is only washed after the sweepings and wastes have been removed. Bilge bays and suctions should be cleaned out and tested while the hold is being swept down. Twin deck scuppers should be tested and rose boxes should be sighted and clear. All non-return valves in the bilge lines should be seen to be free and operating normally. Check that all limber boards or bilge bay covers are in good condition and provide a snug fit. If bilges are contaminated, say from the previous cargo, and have noticeable odor, these should be sweetened and disinfected. The spar ceiling, sometimes referred to as cargo battens, should be examined and replaced where necessary. In specific cases like with an intended coal cargo, the spar ceiling should be totally removed from the compartment prior to loading. All tween deck hatch coverings should be inspected for overall general condition and correct fitting. Tween deck guardrails, chains and stanchions should be fitted and seen to be in good secure order. Any soiled dunnage should be removed and, if appropriate, clean dunnage laid to suit the intended cargo to be loaded. Checks should be made on the hold lighting, fan machinery, ventilation systems and the total flood fire detection or operation aspects. Conduct a final inspection to ensure that the hold is ready to load. Some cargoes like foodstuffs may require the compartments to be inspected by a surveyor prior to commencement of loading. The function of the stowage plan is to identify the various cargo parcels by quantity, destination and nature of goods. It permits the chief officer to assess the number of stevedore gangs for respective compartments and the times associated with cargo operations. Tanker stowage plan, particularly useful with product tankers where the disposition of grades of cargo can be clearly illustrated. The plan can ensure that adjacent tanks are not likely to generate contamination. The pipeline system is often employed in conjunction with the plan to ensure that correct lines are operational with the correct grade of product. Roll-on, roll-off stowage plans or plan view. These are generally computer generated and, like other stowage plans, helps to identify individual units. This is specifically required for any units carrying dangerous or hazardous products. Container stowage plans or elevation cross-section. Container stowage plans are a proven way of tracking specific units during the sea passage. The plan identifies each unit and allows shippers to estimate arrival times and the whereabouts of their goods during every stage of shipment. It provides a provisional distribution plan for the intended cargo parcels. They may be accompanied by capacity space set against cargo capacity to reflect unused space. Probably, The most physically dangerous of all cargoes is steel work. Steel cargoes tend to come in all shapes and sizes, from the biggest casting to the long steel H girders, used extensively in the construction industry. Another form of steel cargo is heavy steel coils. The round shape makes this cargo a high risk to shifting in a seaway, especially if it is not properly secured. Steel coils are normally stowed in a double tier with the bottom coils on athwart ship's dunnage and wedged against athwart ship's movement, each coil being hard up against the next. Steel plates come in a variety of sizes, from very long to heavy bundles of about 2 meters in length. Various methods are employed to handle this commodity, from plate clamps on chain slings to electromagnetic expanding beams. They may be packaged in paper bags like cement or Hessian sacks, as employed for grain or bean products, loading taking place either in containers or on pallet slings. Sizes of bags tend to vary depending on the product and are seen as a regular type of package for general cargo vessels. Slings should be made up in or close to the square of the hatch. If they are made up in the wings, then bags are liable to tear as the load is dragged to the center. Rice is considered as a grain cargo and would need to meet the requirements of the grain regulations affecting stowage. A ship's condition format would be required to show the cargo distribution, and a curve of stability for the condition would need to be constructed. Bales in open stow are normally laid on thick dunnage, single dunnage of at least 50 mm in depth. Bales are expected to be clean with all bands intact. Any stained or oil-marked bales should be rejected at the time of loading. The stow should not be greater than 8 high, and the first height level should be laid on a bed to keep the bilge free. Quoins, a type of wedge arrangement, are used to support the barrels and prevent them from moving. Barrels are given under-deck stowage and would not generally be taken as deck cargo. Containers are easily packed and sealed under customs controls. Mixed commodities like spirits or beer can also be packed onto the same container. Barrels are used more these days to allow wines to mature rather than transport vessels. Bulk fluid products. Some products like wine and fruit juices have generated the construction of specialized transports, specifically for the carriage. Case goods lend particularly to a general cargo open stow, but can be containerized depending on size. Heavy cases should always be given bottom stow with the lighter cases on top. If the contents of the case are pilferable, then they should be loaded onto a lock-up stow and tallied in and tallied out. Cargo in drums is not unusual and can be varied by the way of chemicals, oils, paints, dyes, and even sheep dip. Drums may differ in size, but a 50-gallon drum is probably the most common size for oils and is often used for own ships' stores of lubricating or diesel oil. A cargo of ingots, copper, lead, or tin ingots are all very heavy concentrated cargo parcels and require bottom stow, similar to the iron cargoes of castings, iron billets, and long steel work. Cable reels, large wooden reels with power cable rove around a central core, are carried as general cargo. They are stored in the upright position on a firm deck and should be secured against any pitching or rolling of the vessel when in a seaway. In order to ensure correct handling and stowage of goods, cargoes tend to be labeled and marked with instructions on the side of the respective packages. Cargo is shipped all over the globe and not all countries of discharge are English speaking. To this end, labels are of pictorial display. Cargo officers can monitor from the labeling that instructions are complied with and that stowage practice is as per shipper's instructions. Water is an amazing solvent. It is able to retain large amounts of salt and other materials in solution. When this occurs, the salt change the properties of water. For example, when salt is dissolved in water, the freezing point of water is lowered. Sea water has a higher density than fresh water. Sea water contains many dissolved substances, and these add mass to the water within which they are dissolved, thereby producing a greater mass per unit volume, or a density higher than that of pure water. The amount of salts dissolved in water is called salinity. Because of differences in density between fresh and salt water will move upstream in the estuary along the bottom, while fresh water will flow downstream along the surface. Some mixing occurs at the interface where fresh and salt water meets. This is called brackish water. Local conditions of temperature and water circulation may also increase or decrease salinity. Salinities vary in different bodies of water. The stowage factor of a cargo is the ratio of weight to stowage space required under normal conditions. It indicates how many cubic meters 1 metric ton of a particular type of cargo occupies in a hold, taking account of unavoidable stowage losses in the means of transport or the CTU. Now let us check if we have understood the various concepts discussed in this lesson clearly. The ratio of weight to storage space required in a cargo ship is called stowage factor. Right or wrong? Right. Barrels are used more these days to carry chemicals. Right or wrong? Wrong. Cargoes are labeled to ensure correct handling. Right or wrong? Right. Before we end, let us briefly revise what we have studied so far. The function of the stowage plan is to identify the various cargo parcels by quantity, destination, and nature of goods. It permits the chief officer to assess the number of stevedore gangs for respective compartments and the times associated with cargo operations. Preload plans provide a provisional distribution plan for the intended cargo parcels. In order to ensure correct handling and stowage of goods, cargoes tend to be labeled and marked with instructions on the side of the respective packages. Cargo is shipped all over the globe, and not all countries of discharge are English speaking. To this end, labels are of pictorial display. Seawater has a higher density than fresh water. Seawater contains many dissolved substances, and these add mass to the water within which they are dissolved, thereby producing a greater mass per unit volume, or a density higher than that of pure water. The amount of salts dissolved in water is called salinity.